Hey, it's Matt with C1 again, and I'm going to pick up where I left off last time. This is a follow-up video to my last video, which was setting up Compliance Workspace, doing some configurations to some pages, and also I set up Compliance Case Management, specifically configured a request. And I'm going to pick up where I left off. So last time I created a variant of the case overview, so that we got our own custom overview page for the compliance request, because out of the box the compliance request only has a description in the state. There are a few things that I've already done because there's just so many steps this video. It'd be like an hour long. So I'm going to just go over the first couple of things. So first off, like I said, created this page variant, and you can see we're looking at the compliance request here instead of the compliance case. So I'm going to go to the editor and go over a few things that I've already done. Let this load. Okay, so first off, you've got to go and update the client state parameters on the page. And I've already done this. Actually, no, I haven't done this. So I do need to do this here. So these have to be updated to the request table. So let me go here. Let me grab the name of the table. It's case request. So I'll update this. And then I'm going to, actually, I'll just quickly, .lst. All right, let me grab, I want to configure because I need to get the name of the core table. All right, we're going to grab the core table name, update that. All right, and then these fields that are looking up, some of those are coming from the compliance case rather than the request. And for our use case, we're going to add primary entity. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save this. All right, and then let's go here, and then let's just do our case record, and we should see now we are getting, okay, so description value. All right, actually, let's look at result. Okay, we've got our description, primary entity, short description. Okay, so that is working correctly now. All right, so that was our first thing. First thing we did was go to the client state parameters, and we updated the table names and the fields we're getting, which then that allows this data resource for the case record to pull in the right data. Next up, I've already done a bunch of the things around this timeline. Okay, so out of the box, it's going to use, when we duplicated it, we were taking it from the case, and it was using this data broker. I'll open that, and you'll see here this data broker is going to this script include. So I've already recreated the script include, and I've got it set up for my use case, which instead of the out of the box one's grabbing a whole bunch of stuff around breach and things, I'm just going to grab the due date. So I've got that set up. And then what I had to do was actually insert and stay on this data broker. And I learned a few things in this process. So let me open the one I created. So open that. So it's more than just creating this. I also had to go create an ACL. So once you recreate it, if you make a new data broker, you actually also have to go create an ACL. So I went and I created the same as the ACL for the one on the case, a UX data broker. You put in the sys ID of the data broker, and then you have to give it a role. I gave it the same role as the one that's on the overview page for the case. So that was a little tricky to figure out. So key to these data brokers, got to set up an ACL. So I have that set up, and then once I set up the new data broker and I have that, there was one other thing. This setting the sys here was not editable when I brought that in. Oh, and let me show you too. To add that data resource, you'll go here, data resource, and I'll type get request, and you'll see there's the request, the data broker that I created. Well, when you add that, this sys was not editable, so I actually had to come here to developer, open page definition, and come down into the data, and I just looked at the way the data was set up for the get case timeline config, which is the one used on the compliance case, and I had to update it. The sys the way it was binding here, that wasn't the same, and so I copied that. So if you do this and you create one of these variants, before you go deleting the things you don't need, make sure you've got everything on your that you set up there. So I had to copy, and again I copied this binding for the sys and the props down, saved that, and came back, and then now I was able to have the sys there. And then the last step, and again this is yet another reason not to just go deleting this just yet until you copy, is I had to come up here to the data bindings and set each of these data bindings to use the get request timeline output, timeline start date, and then you'll see this one is end date, events data, range data. So that was probably took me at least 30 minutes or so to do that and kind of figure all that out. Lots of clicking and things. I didn't want to do that in the video. Okay, so those are two big items. Next is these data visualizations down here. Actually, before I do that, up, and actually there's some client scripts that we need to remove. So going back to that page definition, we can actually clean up a few things. We actually don't need this one, status container. So we actually don't need these script includes. They're related to the from the original variant that I duplicated on, and we're not going to use those, so I'll just go ahead and remove those. And so this card is set up, and actually before I get too crazy with that, I'm not going to take the time to go through and name these, but when I did this for my own use case, when I was working on a customer page, I actually went through and meticulously renamed all of these little component IDs. I'm not going to do that here, but we'll actually get rid of this whole reporting container because I'm not going to use that one. So we'll get rid of that, and then we'll change this one to we'll change this to state. So I just want to show some of these things are pretty simple, and then we'll get rid of the flag icons. And actually sometimes it's easier to just delete these things right here. Right, we don't want that. And then this breach status was coming from here. We're actually going to go update this, and we're going to double click there, and we're going to go result record.result.state.display value. Let's apply that. See if that worked out for us. That one was a little bit tricky, and let's go back here and see if that did update. Hasn't taken effect yet. Let's try one more time to see if it's there we go. Okay, there we go. So now that card's updated. That's one of the things. So just those are the easy things. Now let's go down and I want to look at one of these ones that's a little bit trickier on here. So these data visualizations, this one's pulling the task table. So the first thing you got to do is go here to edit, and I'm going to just pull the issues straight on this because the way we have this set up, we're relating to the entity. And so first thing that wasn't necessarily straightforward to me, actually I want to change this to go to issue. I'm going to use the issue table, so we'll go SNGRC issue. That's nice. Okay, and then I'm going to add field. We'll just do active is true. We'll apply that. Okay. When I was first working with this, I was sitting here like, okay, how do you dynamically set a filter? It's not straightforward. You don't actually get to dynamically come in here and set that. So when you, to set your, all right, and let me save this so I don't lose that. Okay, so I'll have, all right, so we changed that to issue. Let's just do a couple more things here. Count of issues. So it is seeing issues, so, but it's pulling them all. So to get it to filter, this one was a little trickier. You have to go to, they had already set this up, and apply filter, and you do what's called a parFilter. And you'll see here right now, this one's set up for the case management case, and then the many-to-many issue table that we're not going to use here. So what we'll need to do, actually, let me just copy and this is a pain in the butt to copy these on here. All right, we'll do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to create 11, and then I'm going to say, we'll call this issues related to entity, and then, and for further use case, I might want to use something else. So go SNGRC issue, that's the first table. And then I want to actually, and I need to go dot, I believe I need to go, let me check this real quick. I'm gonna check my notes real quick. I believe sorry, referenced back to my notes, and yes, so you are going to say the table name and then dot the reference field that we're going to work with. And just for future use, I'm just going to go ahead and do compliance control too. So I know I'll be able to use that table later, and then I'm going to do, that one is also going to do profile. And then here, we're actually not going to use this context. We are going to do API.data. And then we're going to go case record, and we're going to go dot results, I believe it was. Yep. And then primary entity dot value. And just in case it's a null and so I don't break the reports, I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to go API dot data result dot primary entity dot value, and then I'll just pass in a blank, because when I did this in my use case before, I learned this the hard way. The if the entity was null, it broke some of the reports. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that, and then let's see, does that? let's actually change the name of this too, just so I'm going up. Yep, there's some header and border. Issues by state. Let's go ahead and save that. See what we get. All right, and let's just go look at the see if we've got that right. So issues. All issues open to, and are they both going to the same entity? Because if they are not, then we have something gone wrong. And if we do test objective, entity is blank there. Okay. Entity is right on that one. Okay, so we should only be getting one issue. Let's go back and look at this again and just see what we might have missed. All right. Back to that filter. Apply filters. I had left out on my apply filter, I had left out right here, I had left out the case record. So the little gotchas. All right, so that is how you set the filters for there. And there's only one other thing, and I'm not going to do this on the video, but they had this navigate drill down, and here is where you would go and set for the various tables. You can actually tell it when you drill into these visualizations specifically which fields for different tables you want to show up in the list view, which is pretty cool. So that's the last piece. That's what you would configure there. And now here we see we have the issues updated and we're getting the filter done correctly. Well, that does it for today. And just a reminder, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment on any ideas you would have for any future videos you'd like me to do. And if you'd like to get my help on any of these, aside from leaving a comment, you can hit me on LinkedIn and leave me a message there as well. And I'd be happy to help you troubleshoot any problems you're having. Thanks.